Om Ajnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. After 20 years of pilgrimage, going to all the holy places, just like Balaram had done at the time when Krishna appeared 500 years ago, Shri Nityananda went to Vrindavan, and there people didn't know that he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead because he acted like an avaduta. He was an avaduta, meant he's completely detached from the outside world or anyone's consideration of him. His only comfort was rolling in the dust of Vrindavan and singing the names of the Lord. He only ate when people brought him some milk from time to time. He was completely unconcerned with maintaining himself in any way. And there he was waiting for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Navadvip to start the Sankirtan movement, just after Mahaprabhu had come back from Gaya and had inaugurated the Sankirtan movement. Nitai in Vrindavan let out a loud roar. It could be heard all over the three worlds. Haribol! They did it at home. And meanwhile, in Navadvip Dham, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to anticipate the arrival of Nityananda. One morning he told his devotees that, last night I had a very interesting dream. I dreamed that a mystical personality arrived at my door. And he was asking, is this the home of Nimai Pandit? You see, in Vrindavan, Nitai had learned Hindi. He came there in Navadvip, and he was asking the houses nearby, which is the home of Nimai Pandit, over and over again. In the dream, he had arrived in a chariot with a banner which had the insignia of a palm tree. And in this palm tree, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, as the insignia of Nitai, is that the palm tree stands above all the other trees. And Nityananda stands above all other philosophers, all of the spiritual personalities, and gives us the perspective to see where we are and what the purpose of life is and how to attain it. Mahaprabhu said, very soon, this great personality will be arriving here. So on the day that he arrived, no one knew that he had arrived except for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but he told Srivas Thakur and Haridas that he's arrived. You please go find him. He's somewhere here in Navadvip. So they searched everywhere for 9 hours. They went to every house in Navadvip, including the houses of the atheists. And they couldn't find any unusual, great spiritual personality anywhere. When they came back and told Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we didn't find this spiritual personality, although they had a hunch that it was Balaram himself who had arrived. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says this shows the esoteric nature of Sri Nityananda. He's a very intimate devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as Balaram himself. It's only revealed through selfless service to one's guru. Because he's the Akhanda Samasti Guru Tattva. He's the sum total of all gurus. Any guru or anybody who's teaching Krishna consciousness is doing so by the empowerment of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I'll I'll take all of you to meet him. So Mahaprabhu, being omniscient, knew just where Nityananda Prabhu was hiding, in the house of Nandana Acharya. So they all went there, and they found Nityananda Prabhu in a very deep meditation with a smile on his face. And this is his nature. The nature of the living entity, the jiva, in the material world is that sometimes happy, sometimes sad, mostly sad. In fact, there's a great yogi who is said to have known all of his previous lifetimes up to 10 kalpas. And once a king asked him, did you experience more happiness or more distress in your life, all these lifetimes that you can ascertain? He said, my dear king, as far as I can tell, I did not experience one drop of happiness in millions of lifetimes. But Nityananda Prabhu is always happy. A living entity in this material world is constantly under the stress of material nature and forgetful of his original nature. So Nityananda never falls under that illusion because he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As described in the Shastra about the way that Krishna expands himself into various forms for his pleasure. He's the Vishaya Tattva. And his first expansion, Vaibhava, which is same potency but with some speciality. Balaram's the same as Krishna, but he's white. And he has a different mood described, the word abhiman. He has a sense, I am a servant of Krishna. And how much does he serve? The first expansion. He expands himself as Sankarshana in Mathura and Dwarka. And then in Vaikuntha, he expands himself as Mahasankarshan. From Mahasankarshan, he expands himself from Vaikuntha into Mahavishnu. From Mahavishnu, Garbhadakshayi Vishnu, who comes into each individual universe. And we know that Garbhadakshayi Vishnu then expands in Kshiradakshayi Vishnu, who goes into the heart of every living being. And of course, the living entities who are called Vibhinangsha, or they're actually called also Paramatma Vaibhav. They're expansions of the Paramatma, the reservoir of all the jivas and the place they expand from. Prabhupada explains in his purport, the Adi Lila, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is Sankarshana. The shelter of all jivas is Lord Sankarshana. And what are the jivas? They're same spiritual quality, but they are meant as servitors of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, just as Lord Baladev. Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan Ji Ki Jai, Shriman Mahaprabhu Ki Jai, Shri Nityananda Ram Ki Jai, Shri Shri Lakshmi Nrsingadev Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande Haribo. And after Balaram expands himself into everyone's heart, Ekop Yasor Charitum Jagaranda Kotim Yach Shaktirasti Jagaranda Chayayiranda Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. He also expands himself into Shesha. Shesha means the remainder. He's there at the bottom of the universe holding everything up. So in the spiritual world, he holds everything together. He's the Sandini potency that serves Krishna by manifesting the spiritual world and all the variety in it. And he manifests the material worlds also through the Purushas. And all the support of the universe is coming from Sri Balaram. So none of us can say we don't have a relationship with Balaram. We emanate from him. And we also are supported by him in all ways. You're sitting on him now. He's the support of the entire creation, material or spiritual. And he serves Krishna in various ways, as his bed, as his shoes, as his Brahman's thread, his palanquin. All the ways in which Krishna served. Lord Balaram expands himself. So Nityananda Ram is described by Surup Damodar in his Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, where he says, Sankarshana Karanatova Shayi, Garbhoda Shayi Cha Payobdi Shayi, Sheshasya Yasyamsha Kalasa Nityanandakya Rama Sharanam Mamastu. He's explaining what I just said. There are all these manifestations. They're called the Purushas. They're all emanations from Balaram, Sankarshana. And that same Sankarshana, Mayatite Vyapi Vaikuntaloke, Punaishvari Shichatravyuhamadye, Rupam Tasyo Bhati, Sankarshanakyam. They all emanate from Sankarshana, Balaram, Nityananda, who's Mayatite, he's above Maya, Vaikuntaloke, situated in the spiritual world. So, our Acharya is right. If you want to be happy, take shelter of Lord Nityananda, because he's always happy. And he's very merciful. He arranges for the jivas to become happy, because he's Guru Tattva. The purpose of the Guru is to rescue jivas who have become bewildered by the material energy. So he expands himself into the individual gurus. He's the Akhanda Samasti Guru, which means the combined force of all gurus, and he also manifests as individual gurus. For instance, in the story of the Chaitanya Charitamrita of Raghunath Das Goswami, who came from a billionaire family, but wasn't really into it. And when he saw Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his mind took off. He didn't want to stay another day in his opulence with his family. He wanted to be an eternal servitor of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But his parents didn't want him to go anywhere. They wanted him to take up the family business. He had gone to visit Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at the time when Mahaprabhu had taken sannyas, and he came to what he thought was Vrindavan, and it was at Sri Advaita's house. Raghunath, then still in household life, had come there to visit him, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Don't be like a crazy person. Go back and act like you fit in. When the time comes, then you can make your break and come and join me. But now just be with your family and do what you have to do." So he went back. And of course, the story is there about how one of his relatives, who was a tax collector, had been skimming money off the top. So when the feds came to his house and he had absconded, they arrested Raghunath Das. It wasn't Raghunath Das at the time, but he was the only one there. So they took him, put him in jail. But the interrogators became so taken with his sweet countenance and his words that they released him. And he went back and proffered a deal with his relatives so they could pay off the government what they owed. And in this way, he acted like a normal business person. But then his mind went back to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and again, every night he tried to escape. But he was under house arrest. His family had horsemen who would chase him down and bring him back. And they were very wealthy, so they had spies everywhere, and they wanted to keep him at home. So finally, Raghunath went to visit Sri Nityananda Prabhu. He had his men with him, following him, and they came to see. Raghunath came to see, but he had people with him at Panihati. And there he saw Nityananda Prabhu surrounded by many dignitaries and great souls, and he was effulgent. So from a distance, he paid his dandavats. And somebody informed Nityananda Prabhu that there is Raghunath Das offering you obeisances. And Nityananda Ram said, Raghunath, come here. You're a thief. You're cheating. You're cheating me. And Raghunath wouldn't come. So Nityananda forcibly embraced him. And then he put his lotus feet on his head. And he said, now I have to punish you. For your punishment, you have to put on a festival for all my followers. I want you to give chipped rice and kheer and chipped rice and dahi to everybody here. Raghunath was very happy because one thing he had a lot of was money. He came from a very wealthy family. So he had his men with him start to buy all the ingredients, all the pots, the chipped rice, the dahi, kheer, camphor, banana, putting it all into this nectarian preparations. And more people came. And as they came, it took 20 men that were following Raghunath to go out, get all the ingredients and come back, get them prepared. And more came. Some were sitting on a platform with Nityananda Ram. And then some sat under the platform because there was no more room to sit with him and eat this prasadam. And then some came and sat on the bank of the Ganges. Then there was no room there. So some sat in the Ganges and ate their chipped rice and yogurt. And with this, Nityananda Prabhu was very happy to see everyone having a big festival. In the spiritual world, there's always a festival going on, constantly. Nityananda, eternally blissful. So then Nityananda began walking around, and only a few people could see what he was doing. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had also manifested there in a form that only a few people could see, and they were, that is, Nityananda and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, taking morsels from each one of the pots. And Nityananda Prabhu would put a morsel into Lord Chaitanya's mouth and laugh, and Lord Chaitanya would take a morsel of the prasad and put it in Nityananda Prabhu's mouth, and he would laugh. In this way, they were going around to everybody, taking prasadam. After that incident, then Yadunandana Acharya, who was the spiritual master of Raghunath Das, after he had returned home one morning early before the dawn broke, came to him and said, we need a pujari. Our pujari has stopped doing his service. We need you to convince him to take it up again. So please come with me. And as they walked away from Raghunath Das's highly guarded kutir where he lived, Raghunath saw a great opportunity. He ostensibly went to inform the pujari to take up his service, but in the dark, before the sun had risen, he headed through an unmarked path towards Jagannath Puri to join Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, walking for 30 days. Only a few of the days during those 30 was he able to eat. He didn't follow the regular roads because his father had sent out his men in every direction to bring him back as usual. And even at that time, the party of devotees headed by Shivananda Sain and Advaitacharya were on their way to Jagannath Puri, their yearly pilgrimage to meet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And when Raghunath Das's father had sent some men to intercept them and ask, where's my son? They said, he's not with us. And when they came back empty-handed, everybody knew Raghunath Das had finally made his break. And then he came to Jagannath Puri and surrendered himself at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who then said, You will become the Raghunath of Swarup Damodar. He put him under his care. So one of the important points is that although Raghunath Das had tried to take shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again and again, he wasn't successful until he got the benedictions of his gurus. Yadunandana Acharya, who is a disciple of Vasudev Datta, the famous Vaishnava, and also of Nityananda Prabhu, the Akhanda Samasti Guru. Brahmanda Brahmate Kon Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasadi Pai Bhakti Lata Beach. When one gets the mercy of Guru, then one gets Krishna. By Krishna's mercy, one gets Guru, vice versa. And that power to come to Krishna through the principle of Guru, whether it's the Vartmana Parakshaka Guru, the Shiksha Guru, or the Diksha Guru. This is all the power of Lord Balaram Nityananda, who is opening the pathway for the jivas who are meant to serve just like he is in eternal happiness in the spiritual world, but who have become waylaid, like pedestrians who are lost in the fog. He brings them out and shows them the real path. This is Nityananda Prabhu's prerogative. It's one of the ways in which he serves Krishna, the way Nityananda serves Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Nityananda Prabhu stayed with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As you know, as we just talked about it recently, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas, he wanted to go to Vrindavan. He was in an ecstatic trance and wandering. And he kept asking the local cowherding boys, which is the path to Vrindavan? And Nityananda Prabhu was behind Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, watching out for him, although Mahaprabhu was unaware of it. Every time he'd ask for directions, Lord Nityananda would indicate to the cowherd boys, point that way. And he was directing him back towards the home of Sri Advaita Prabhu in Shantipur. Mahaprabhu had no idea where he was because he was in ecstasy. So he followed the path that was showed to him, and again ended up at the Ganges. But he said, "Oh, we've come to the Jamuna." And taking bath there, he was in ecstasy, but his trance broke when he saw Advaita Acharya coming on a boat. And he said, "Advaita, what are you doing here in Vrindavan?" Advaita Acharya, "Wherever you are is Vrindavan." And then Mahaprabhu understood the situation and chastised Sri Nityananda. "You've tricked me. You brought me back here." Sri Nityananda understood the secret of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and revealed it to the world. In fact, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started his Sankirtan movement, he told his followers to go out and teach everyone to chant the names of Krishna. Bolo Krishna, Bhajo Krishna, Koro Krishna Shika. But Nityananda Prabhu, when he went door to door, he taught everyone, chant Gauranga. Chant the names of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He revealed to all the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is Krishna. So chant the names of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of Gauranga. There, you can hear it now, coming all the way from Navadvip. And when Mahaprabhu had gone to Jagannath Puri, or before he had gone to Jagannath Puri, he was on his way there. He had taken sannyas. He stopped at a beautiful place for the night, and in the morning, after doing his ablutions, he had entrusted his danda to Sri Nityananda. And when he came back, the danda was broken in several pieces. And Mahaprabhu lamented. He said, "What have you done?" He said, I entrusted you with this. This is my only possession in the world, now that I'm a sannyasi. And you've broken it. Nityananda Prabhu made up a story. He said, you were in ecstasy, you fell on it, it broke. And so, our acharyas explain that rasa between Nityananda and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in many instances, but especially here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was showing the external etiquette following sannyasi life, showing how to be a strict devotee. Nityananda Prabhu disliked the idea. You don't have to follow anything. You're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's this tension throughout the Chaitanya Leela, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, although he's following the strict etiquette externally, he's very pleased when his devotees, out of love, break that etiquette. Gadadhar Pandit followed Mahaprabhu away from Tota Gopinath many, many miles until he had broken his vow of Kshetra Sannyas. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu externally was angry and chastised him. He said, now your vow is finished, you go back. He was externally angry, but internally he was pleased with the spontaneous love of Gadadhar. So Nityananda Prabhu was showing the world this is not necessary for him to carry any danda. Srila Prabhupada came to America in the mood of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, who didn't consider who was a fit or unfit candidate. He never became angry at the poor conditioned souls, and he gave them consideration out of extreme mercy. Of course, the story that most represents that is in Navadvip with Jagai Madai. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to kill them because Madai had struck Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the head with a pot, causing blood to pour forth. He brought his chakra. Jagai had taken shelter of Nitai and tried to stop his brother, Madai. And when Nityananda told Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that was Jagai, he tried to stop him. Mahaprabhu gave mercy to Jagai. And when Madai said, I should get mercy too, because we've always done everything together. My brother and me, we stole things together. We burned down people's houses together. We caused havoc together ever since we were young. So we should be liberated together. Mahaprabhu said, no, you have to surrender to Nitai and take his shelter, or I will not give you shelter. And when Madai surrendered to Nityananda, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced him, both Jagai and Madai. So the mood Srila Prabhupada came was in the mood of Nityananda, even after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had gone into his final pastimes to relish the mellows for which he had come, his internal reasons. He asked Nityananda Prabhu to go out into the world, go everywhere. Go to the places where the people are most fallen and give them the opportunity to come to Krishna consciousness. And Srila Prabhupada's mission, Paschatya Deshatarne, he went to the places where people further west, where people are completely detached from spiritual culture, following in the footsteps of Nityananda Ram. So everybody who's part of the Krishna consciousness movement is a recipient of the mercy of Sri Nityananda Ram coming through. Srila Prabhupada, who is, as some have ascertained, the Avesh of Nityananda Ram, an empowered personality who is channeling the same mercy as Nityananda Prabhu. Shri Nityananda Ram ki jai.
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. You can use my drum.
Hare Rama
Just keep it going.
Rama
I'm now placing the names of the devotees who generously donated for the Live to Give campaign, which we participated in the global team to distribute at least 2 million Bhagavad Gitas and smash the goal thanks to these generous donors. The names will be read during the yajna, but even as we start, I'm placing the list underneath the yajna stali and praying that all the devotees who have assisted in this great campaign receive Lord Nityananda's mercy and the results of this sacrifice. Hare Krishna.
Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Also, keep going. We have
Hare Krishna
a yajna to perform for devotees who helped in 2019.
Hare Hare
Krishna willing, we'll be back in the Dham sometime soon, and I intend to personally conduct that yajna. We have all the names of those of you who have assisted mightily by giving your hard-earned Lakshmi to help push forward the force of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. Om Madhavo Madhavo Vachi Madhavo Madhavo Hardi Smananti Saravak Sarve Saravakarish Madhavam.
Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama,
Om Swastino Govinda
Rama
Swastino Chutananto Swastino
Rama,
Vasudeva
Hare
Vishnutaratu
Hare.
Swastino Narayano Narovai Swastina Padmarabha Purushottam Daratu Swastino Vishwakshmena Vishveshwaraha Swastino Hrishikesho Harir Daratu Swastino Vayana Tayo Harihi Swastino Undana Sato Hanur Bhagavatu Daratu Swasti Swasti Sumangalai Keshaman Shri Krishna Sakshina Sakshirananda Gananas Sarveshwareshwar Daratus Karotu Swasti Me Krishna Sarvo Lokeshwareshwaraha Karshnare Astakurvantu Swasti Me Lokapanavaha Om Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Param Sada Pashanti Suryoho Diviva Chakshra Tavipraso Vibanyavo Jagvraham Saha Smindate Vishnur Yat Paramam Param.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
You throw them that way, I'll throw them this way.
Hare Krishna,
Om Swasti Namaha.
Hare Krishna.
Also tonight,
Krishna,
accompanying us at this
Krishna,
yajna
Hare
are two Dambasis who have appeared here in the Bay Area directly from Ambika Kalna. The two trees, and that's what they are, on my right-hand side are tamarind trees. They are direct descendants of the tamarind tree that's over 500 years old in Ambika Kalna, a holy place where Gauridas Pandit, the famous devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda lived, and where Nityananda Prabhu and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally danced. That tree was a place of many pastimes. When I was there a year and a half ago, I received from Jananivas Prabhu, as we were standing under the tree, a pod from the mother tree. And he told me, eat this. So I followed his instruction, and 2 seeds were left over. When I came back, I planted the seeds, and much to my surprise, they actually grew. His Holiness Srila Ratna Swami, when he came to our home, chanted to these trees every morning with great delight, feeling that they had appeared to help the Sankirtan movement here in the Bay Area. So we're praying for the special mercy of these special devotees who have appeared here, and we have put around their trunks these threads which we're going to later on offer as prasadam to all the donors.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
You can use those too.
Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Shri Gaurnitai, Shri Shri Panchatattva, Shri Shri Lakshmana Shingadev, all the great acharyas, if you so desire,
Hare
please bless all the devotees who have
Krishna,
participated
Hare
in the Live to Give campaign
Krishna Krishna,
and for whom we are
Hare
performing this
Hare,
auspicious
Hare
sacrifice tonight. Thank you for considering our
Rama,
request.
Hare
Om Tat Sat.
Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna,
Na Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna,
Om Jnana Timirandasya
Krishna Krishna,
Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Vidatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha
Shri Gurave Namaha.
Swaha 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 Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam
Chaitanya Manobhishtam
Stapitam Yena Bhutale
Yena Bhutale
Swayam Rupa Katahmayam
Swayam Rupa Kadamaya
Tatati Swapadantikam Swaha 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 Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvatutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Swaha 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 Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Swaha 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 Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Swaha 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 Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Tinamine Swaha 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 Shri Barshabhanavi Devi Daitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Swaha 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 Madhuryojvala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Swaha 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 Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudhapa Apasiddhanta Dvanta Harine Swaha 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 Namo Gaurakishoraya Sakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padambujayate Namaha Swaha 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 Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sakchirananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Swaha 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 Gauravirbhava Bhomestvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannathaya Te Namaha Swaha 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 Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Swaha 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 Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Tvishe Namaha Swaha 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 Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Swaha 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 Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Swaha 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 Jayatam Suratau Pangor Mama Manna Matirgati Vatsarva Swapadambo Jao Radha Madana Mohana Swaha 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 Divya Vrindaranya Kalpadrumadha Srimad Ratnangara Singhasanastau Srimad Radha Shila Govinda Deva Reshtalibi Sevyamano Smarami Swaha 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 Shriman Rasarasarampi Vamshiva Tatatastitaha Karshan Venus Swanir Gopi Gopinatha Sri Shriyestunaha Shriyestunaha Swaha 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 Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Swaha 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 Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Swaha 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 Om Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Swaha 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 Om Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Swaha 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 Om Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. We stand up for the Purnahuti, please. Mantrahinam Kriyahinam Bhaktihinam Janardanam. Dear Lord Krishna, please forgive us for any mistakes that we made in this process. Om Tat Sat. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jugatitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyate. Swaha. Kirtan. Bolo bolo.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Gora Artik. Gora. Hare Hare. Jayo Jaya Gora Chande Haroti Koshoba. Janavitatavane Jagamana Loba. Is that all right? Follow. Janavitatavane Jagamana Loba.
Janavitatavane Jagamana
Jaga Jana Mana Loba. Jagajana Manalobha Gaurangera Rotik Shobha Jagajana Manalobha Gaurangera Rotik Shobha Jagajana Manalobha Jagajana Manalobha Jagajana Manalobha Jaya Jaya Gora Chandera Rutiko Shobha Janavitatavane Jagamanalobha Ganalobha Dakine Nitai Chan Pamegadadhara Nitai Chan Kija Dakine Nitai Chan Pamegadadhara Dikate Advaita Shrini Vaschatradara Nikate Advaita Shrini Vaschatradara Kiba Jaya Kiba Jaya Jaya Gora Chande Radoti Koshoba Kiba Jaya Jaya Gora Chande Haroti Koshoba Janavitatavane Jagamanalobha Janavitatavane Jagamanalobha Bosi Ache Gora Chan Ratna Singhasane Bosi Yache Gorachan Ratna Singhasane Aroti Korena Brahma Adi Devagane Arati Korena Brahma Adi Devagane Haribo! Jaya Jaya Gora Chande Arati Koshoba Jana Vitata Vane Jagamana Loba Nangera Rotiko Shobha Jagajana Mana Loba Angera Rotiko Shobha Jagajana Mana Loba Nara Hari Hari Kori Chamaradulaya. Little more pace, Sadhu. Sanjaya Mukunda Basu Gosharigaya Mid. Shanka Baje Ganta Baje Baje Garatala Madhura Mridanga Baje Paramarasala Madhur 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 Baje Madhur 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 Baje Shanka Baje Ganta Baje Madhur 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 Baje
Shanka Baje Ganta Baje Madhur 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 Baje
Shanka Baje Ganta Baje Madhur 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 Bahu Koti Chandra Jini Vadana Ujvala Galadeshe Vanamala Kori Jalamala.
Mala de Shivana Mala, Kori Jalamala.
Shiva Shukanarara. Preme Gada Gada.
Shiva Shukanarada, Vimegada Gada.
Bhakati Vinoda Deke Gaurara Sampada.
Bhakati Vinoda Deke Gaurara Sampada.
Jaya
Jaya Gaura Chandir Harati Ko Shobha.
Shiva Jaya Jaya Gaura Chande Arati Koshobha.
Shiva Jaya Jaya Gaura Chandir Harati Ko Shobha.
Jaya Jaya Gaura Chande Arati Koshobha. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Haribo, Haribo.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama. Nadiya Godrume Nityananda Mahajan.
Nadiya Godrume Nityananda Mahajan.
Pateya Chenam Hata Jiverakaran.
Pateya Chenam Hata Jiverakaran.
Sharabanjan hai, Sharabanjan hai. Sharabanjan hai, Sharabanjan hai. Get another one. Prabhu Agnai by Magi Bika. Prabhu Agnai by Magi Bika. Bolo Krishna, Bhajo Krishna, Koro Krishna Shika. Aparara Shuna Hoy Lo Krishna Nam. Aparara Shunya Hoy Lo Krishna Nam. Krishna Mata, Krishna Pita, Krishna Dana Pran. Krishna Samsara Koro Charyanacha. Jive Doya Krishna Nam Sarva Dharma Sa. Nariya Godrume Nityananda Mahajan. Nariya Godrume Nityananda Mahajan. Nariya Nagare Nitai Niche Niche Gaire. 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 Jagannath Sutta Mahaprabhu Vishwamba Mayapura Shashi Navatipa Sudakar. Everyone. Sachi Sutta Gora Had Radha Baba Kanti Achadita Nataba Namananda Chapala Balaka Matribhakta Brahmananda Varna Taki Katu Kanura. Nariya Nagare Nitai Niche Niche Gaire. Nariya Nagare Vidyarte Udupa Chau Dwaryar Mohan Tartika Sarvasya Gramya Balika Kridan Lakshmi Pati Bora Datta Udatta Bala Shishachira Pati Putra Shokani Bara Lakshmi Pati Purva Desha Sarva Kleshaha Digvijay Darpahari Vishnu Priyashva Nariya Nagare Nitai Niche Niche Gaire. Nariya Nagare Nitai Niche Niche Gaire. Arya Dharma Pala Pitra Gaya Pinda Dat Puri Shishya Madhvacharya Sampradaya Pa Krishna Namon Mata Krishna Tattva Adhyapaka Nam Sankirtana Yuga Dharma Pravartaka Advaita Bandhava Srinivas Grihadan Nityananda Pranagada Dhera Dalgiva Narayana Gare Nitai Niche Niche Gaire. Narayana Gare Nitai Niche Niche Antardip Shashadar Simanta Vijay Godruma Bihari Madhya Dvipa Lila Shrai Kola Dvipa Pati Ritu Dvipa Maheshwar Janu Moda Drupa Rudat Hipera Ishwar Navakanda Ranganatha Jana Vijivan Jagai Marai Adi Durvitatara Narayana Gare Nitai Niche Niche Narayana Gare Nitai
Niche
Nagara Kirtana Simha Kaji Udaran Shudanama Pracharaka Bhaktarti Haran Narayani Kripa Sindhu Jivarani Yanta Adama Paduya Dandi Bhakta Doshahan Shri Krishna Chaitanya Chandra Bharati Taran Parivraj Shiramani Ukalapavan Narayana Gare Nitai Niche Gaire Narayana Gare Nitai Niche Ambulinga Bhuvanesha Kapotesha Pati Kirchor Gopadashayana Sukiyati Nirdani Sanyasi Sarva Boma Kripa Moy Swananda Aswanandi Sarva Sukashroy Purata Sundara Vasudeva Chana Ramananda Saka Bhatta Kula Kaishaha Narayana Gare Nitai Niche Niche
Gaire Narayana Gare Nitai
Bauddha Jain Mayavadi Tarka Kandan Dakshina Pavana Bhakti Grantha Udarana Alala Darshanandi Rathagra Nartaka Gajapati Trana Devananda Udaraka Kuleya Prakashe Dushta Padur Yartran Rupa Sanatana Bandhu Sarva Jiva Pran Narayana Gare Nitai Niche Niche Gaire Narayana Gare Nitai Niche Vrindavana Nanda Murti Bala Badra Sangi Yavana Udari Bhatta Bala Vera Rangi Kashi Batsi Sanyas Dari Premada Markata Vairagi Dandi Achandala Bhaktera Gora Bhakkari Bhakta Pranadana Haridas Raghunath Swarupa Jivana Narayana Gare Nitai Niche Niche Gaire Narayana Gare Nitai Bhakati Vinodhar Pore Rangapaire Narayana Jaya Gora Nitai, Gora Nitai, Gora Nitai, Jaya Gora Nitai,
Gora Nitai, Gora Nitai, Gora Nitai, Jaya Gora Nitai,
Jaya Nitai, Jaya Go, Jaya Nitai, Jaya Go,
Jaya Nitai, Jaya Go, Jaya Nitai, Jaya Go,
Nitai Gaur Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur Haribo,
Nitai Gaur Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur Haribo,
Nitai Gaur Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur Haribo,
Nitai Gaur Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur Haribo.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivrajikacharya Stotara Satashi Shimad Apai Charana Ravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivrajikacharya Stotara Satashi Shimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Zagaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavriniki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gokobina Shamakunda Radha Kundagiri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Mayapur Navadiptam Ki Jai Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Jamuna Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai Samveda Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai Shri Nityananda Trayodasi Maha Mahotsav Ki Jai Shri Nityananda Ram Ki Jai. All glories to some devotees. All glories to some devotees.
Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Gaur Premanande Haribol.
Namaste Narashingaya. Namaste Narashingaya.
Namaste Narsimhaya. Hiranyakashipurvaksha Shilatankanakalaya Narsinga Yato yato yamitato Narsinga Yato yato yamitato Narsinga Narsima Hridaya Narsima Narsima Hridaya Narsima Narsingamadin Sharana Prabhave Narsingamadin Sharana Prabhave Pakara Kamalavare Naka Abuddha Shinga Dalita Hiranyakashipu Anubringa Shavadita Narariru Jagadish Hare Jagadish Hare Jagadish Hare
तव कर कमल वरे अद्भुत श्रृंग ललित हिरण्यकशिपु धनुबिंग केशवदीता नरहरि रूप जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे
Kamalavare Abhishinga Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringa Keshavadita Narari Rupa Jagadisha Hare Jagadish Hare Jagadish Hare
लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय नरहरि लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय नरहरि
Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Narahari Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Narahari
जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय प्रहलाद महाराज भक्त प्रहलाद प्रहलाद महाराज जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय जय प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद जय
Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada
जय गौर हरि बोल
Jai Gaur
हरि
Hari
बोल
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol
श्री भगवान की भक्त श्रीमणि प्रहलाद महाराज की जगत गुरु शिल प्रभुपाद की निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे
Hari Hari Bol
Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here at ISV for this special occasion, bringing on almost 1 year, coming up 1 year of special circumstances. And so far, because of the innovation, the determination, and the devotion of the devotees in our community, last year we excelled in many different ways. In book distribution, there were examples, great examples of devotee care. There was the fruition, at least the launch, which has been in the building stage for many years, of the digital platform Bhakti Community. And meanwhile, back at the temple, Ramananda Saka Prabhu, Hansapriya Radhabalava, and many others kept the cooking deity worship going on schedule without missing anything. And people all over the world are disoriented wondering what to make of material nature, turning things upside down. It's a little hard to figure out. But somehow or other, although we've had some minor inconvenience in some ways, it's been a convenience too. We've had a shelter as we have this base. And we found out also that even when we're not in the base itself, although it is pretty sweet to be back, we were able to maintain our identity as a community and continue to grow. So congratulations to everybody, and we pray to Lord Nityananda, our dear Lord Nityananda, if you so desire, please empower us to work together this year, 2021, to expand all the ways in which we're reaching out to people in the world, to give them your mercy, and also please let us take full advantage ourselves so that we can please you and also ourselves take full advantage of your mercy. Thank you for considering our request. Everyone who agrees with these ideas in part or in whole, please say, Jai Nityananda.
Hare Krishna.
Jai Nityananda.
Hari Bol, Hari
Jai
Bol.
Nityananda.
Nityananda.
Jai Nityananda.
Jai Nityananda.
Jai Nityananda.
Jai Nityananda.
Jai Nityananda. Hare Krishna. Also, we thank the two transcendental personalities who have appeared here in the form of tamarind trees. Madhvacharya, when his father had some debt, turned tamarind tree seeds into gold. And as special mercy that these two entities from the Dham came back here. It's representative of spiritual growth to come. So let's see if anybody has reflections from the evening.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
It's not reflection. I'm seeking blessings. Today is Chaitanya's 4th birthday. We need your prayers and blessings, Prabhu.
Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Panchatattva, Sri Nityananda Prabhu, Sri Radha Madan Mohan, Sri Lakshmi Nrsingadev, if you so desire, please bless Chaitanya to follow in his father's footsteps, to become a leader in the Sankirtan movement and help spread it all over the world, and also to always have the holy name in his heart and on his lips. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. Chaitanya, if you like that benediction coming from all the devotees, please say Jai Nityananda.
Jai Nityananda. Jai Nityananda.
Hari Hari. What other reflections do you all have? Yes, Balaram.
In the lecture, Maharaj, you were saying that there was a whole description of how Lord Balaram is everywhere and how we're even expansions of Balaram. And I found that very nice to hear that he's with us at all times and he's there to support us.
You can feel it when you go to Vrindavan, can't you? When you go to Krishna Balaram Mandir, you can sit there in front of Krishna Balaram all day long and just feel shelter from him because he's our shelter. Yes, that part struck me also. I had been reading about it earlier and just remembering that we have a purpose, and we can realize that purpose by following in the footsteps of Lord Baladev. Because as the first expansion of Krishna, his attitude is of service in every possible way. And if we cooperate with him in that service, then we'll be as well situated as he is. Thank you. Good point. Other reflections? It's hard for me to tell who's smiling, so I don't know who to call on.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, this is
Hare
Asar
Krishna.
Madhav.
Jai
Yeah.
Shai Madhav. Hare Krishna.
Haribol Prabhu. When we read about this pastime of Nityananda Prabhu with Jagai and Madhai, that gives us hope, basically, that we also have some chance.
Yes, and as Satyadev Prabhu was pointing out, either last year or the year before, or maybe it was when we were in the Dham, but he's especially appreciating Nityananda Prabhu's quality of a dosha darshi. He doesn't see the faults in others. The topmost Vaishnavas see the potential, but not the faults of others. And Sri Nityananda Prabhu, lucky for fallen souls like me, sees opportunity and just fans the spark. And even for Jagai Madhai, he gave special mercy. So Prabhupada said that we get Lord Nityananda's mercy by going out and trying to help the Jagais and Madhais of the world. In our Harinam Sankirtans in the old days, when we were standing up and doing kirtan, some of you might remember, or even when we were sitting down, there's some local devotees there who are all-out drunks. And they were so intoxicated, they were pickled, actually. They would come and contort themselves and roll on the ground in front of the kirtan. And sometimes we would call out, Jai Nityananda, Jai Jagai Madhai, imagining how merciful he is. Even the drunkards and the lowest of people, he takes them in. Let's have a couple more, because it's really good to hear from everybody. Sadhu.
Maharaj,
Yes.
Maharaj, if you want to be happy, take shelter of Lord Nityananda. If you want to be always happy,
Yes.
because he's always happy, Nityananda.
Nitai Padakamala. He's inconceivably merciful, and Prabhupada writes in his purport to that song that he's always happy. And if we want to be happy, then we join him. Thank you for reminding us. Sadhu.
You were talking about Lord Balaram, and I was just thinking how he's also our guru. He's the guru of the universe, and I read in one letter that Srila Prabhupada wrote that the guru and Krishna, they have to be worshipped simultaneously. You can't worship Krishna by himself, and you can't worship the guru by himself. And so I'm just thinking you have to worship Lord Balaram, and Lord Balaram will make it way easier for you to actually come and go back to the abode of Lord Krishna.
Sadhu, you make a good point, and this is something that comes out very strongly in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Because when Kaviraj Goswami was at the home of his brother, there was a mela at the house, and there was a devotee of Lord Nityananda named Minikatana Ramdas who came there. He was a spontaneous cowherd boy. He had a flute. He was one of the followers of Sri Nityananda. His followers are generally in Sakya-ras, and they're cowherds. In any case, his brother had a pujari there who was prominent, but he had faith in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but not in Lord Nityananda. And to display his lack of faith in Lord Nityananda, he disrespected Minikatana Ramdas. Minikatana Ramdas, because he was a follower of Lord Nityananda and understood that he was being disrespected because he was a follower, then became angry, and he broke his flute and went away. And after that, Kaviraj Goswami's brother fell down. And Kaviraj Goswami, sensing the offense, would not stay in that place. He left immediately, and that night when he lay down to sleep, he had a dream, and Lord Nityananda came to him directly and benedicted him and told him to go to Vrindavan. So as soon as he woke up, he started from Vrindavan, and we know the result of that. That he was able, by following Lord Nityananda, taking shelter of him, to be empowered to write the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, even as he was invalid in his old age. He mentions how he was barely able to write because he was so old. But Nityananda empowered him. So, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Bhagavat point out that if one accepts Lord Chaitanya but not Lord Nityananda, the Guru, the Akhanda Samasta Guru, then one's devotion is incomplete. It's like the logic of taking half a hen, and it won't be successful. 2 more? Yes.
Hare Krishna. I really liked what you said about how he's always supporting us through the weight of the earth. And that's something that is easy to practically think about, of him always supporting us and lifting us upwards. And that really parallels the analogy you give about how we're in the ocean of material miseries, and his arms, through like his representatives and devotees, are the same arms that are keeping us afloat.
Yeah. How are we being kept afloat, and what is that power to be alive? And Prabhupada talks about that in his lecture about Nityananda Balaram, and says our power to live, everything's coming from him. I assume that it's me, I'm doing it. That's the false ego, but actually I'm being maintained at every second. Thank you very much. One more.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Really, really love the point where you mentioned that he doesn't see whether someone is fit or not to give his mercy. And when you connected with Srila Prabhupada, I was just remembering that, where would I be without Prabhupada's causeless mercy? And then was connecting it back to Nityananda Prabhu. So fortunate to get the mercy. Thank you.
Yes, in one commentary it's mentioned, Maya Mragam Dayite Iptitaman Vadavad, from the Bhagavatam 11th canto. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave Krishna consciousness to anyone who wanted it, and Lord Nityananda gave it even to the people who didn't want it. And at one festival, when he was there with the devotees, he had asked Raghunananda to go and get some flowers that weren't in season at the time. And he told Lord Nityananda, they're not in season at this time, but Nityananda Prabhu told him to go look. And he looked, and on his lemon plant, they were growing, and he made a garland and brought it back. And then with all the devotees, they were having kirtan, and Lord Nityananda said that, can you smell that fragrance? What is it? And it was a particular kind of flower that they identified, and he said, yes, that's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is wearing right now in Jagannath Puri. And actually, although you can't see him, he's come here, and that's why you can smell the scent of those flowers here with us right now. Anytime that Lord Nityananda was dancing is one of the places that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would come and manifest himself at all times. There was another point I was going to... Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, Madam. I was thinking about how Krishna at the end of Bhagavad Gita, he asks everyone to surrender to him, and then he'll remove all, he says, do not fear, I'll remove all sinful reaction. I was thinking how Nityananda Prabhu doesn't even ask for that. He doesn't even ask for us to surrender unto him, and I was thinking I was very lucky for that, because I don't have the capacity to completely surrender.
Yes, thank you, and that reminded me of the point I was coming to in the last paragraph, and that was that during that pastime, it's mentioned in the Nityananda Ashtakam that Nityananda Prabhu, he put some water in his hand, that part's not mentioned, but he declared to the world, anyone who chants Hare Krishna, I will save that person from the cycle of birth and death. Just take shelter of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, chant Hare Krishna, and I personally will deliver you. And then he took water in his palm and he dropped it to the ground and said, "This is a firm vow." So that's mentioned in that Nityananda Ashtakam, that he has declared it. So we bank on that. Just as Jiva Goswami writes from Sarva Dharman Parityaja Mamikam Sharanam Vraja, the devotees, they think about that always, that Sri Krishna has given that vow. And similarly, we remember how Lord Nityananda has given this vow that anyone who chants Hare Krishna takes shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I promise to deliver. These are not, these are words that, when emanated from the lips of the Supreme Personality of God, Servitor Godhead, are eternally potent. So we can take shelter of that again and again, even during the hardships that we undergo in this lifetime. We can remember Lord Nityananda's vow and his special declaration of mercy. And now it's time for any other announcements? Would anybody else like to make a comment? Sharirad Vijjaja Jodendriya Tahikaha Jive Pele Vishaya Shagare Dharma Vayati Loba Muisu Durmati Take jeta katita samsare Krishna borodoya moy Gori bare jihajay Shaprasadana dilobai Shayanamrita Pao Radha Krishna Gunagao Premedako Sri Chaitanya Nitai Premedako Sri Chaitanya Nitai Nitai Pada Kamala Nitai Pada Kamala Koti Chandra Shushita Nitai Pada Kamala Koti Chandra Shushita Ye Chaya Jagata Churai
Jagata Churai
Heno Nite Bine Bhai Radha Krishna Paite Nai
Enani Darbine Bhai Radha Krishna Paitana
Dridda Kori Daro Nitair Pai
Dita Kori Darani Tarpai
Sheshambandha Nahi Jar Britta Janma Gelota
Se Sambandana Hija Brita Janma Gilota
She Pashu Boroduracha
Boroduracha
Nitai Nabo mukhe majilo samsara sukhe.
Nitana bolilo mukhe majilo samsara sukhe.
Vidya kule kikori betar.
Vidya kule kikori betar.
Ahankare mata hoya nitai pada pareya. Pasariya. One more time. Ahankare mata hoya nitai pada pasariya. Asatyere satya korimani. Nitaye karuna hobe Braje Radha Krishna pabe. Dharo nitai charana dukhani. Nitayir charana satya tahara sevaka nitya. Nitai pada sada koro asha. Narotama boro tuki nitai more koro suki. Rakoranga charanera pasha. Rakoranga charanera pasha. Rakoranga charanera Narotamo boro tuki tai more koro suki. Narotamo boro tuki tai more koro suki. Rakoranga charanera pash. Rakoranga charanera pash. Nitai pada kamala Koti chandra shuchi kala. Nitai Pada Kamala Koti Chandra Shishitala
Nitai Pada
Jai Chayaya Jagata Juda Chaya
Jagata Jura
Chaya Jagata Juda Chaya Jagata Juda. Is there a translation there we can have with the violin and harmonium in the background? The lotus feet of Lord Nityananda are a shelter where one will get the soothing moonlight not only of one, but of millions of moons. If the world wants to have real peace, it should take shelter of Lord Nityananda. Unless one takes shelter under the shade of the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, it will be very difficult for him to approach Radha Krishna. If one actually wants to enter into the dancing party of Radha Krishna, he must firmly catch hold of the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. Anyone who has not established his relationship with Nityananda Prabhu is understood to have spoiled his valuable human birth. Such a human being is actually an uncontrollable animal. Because he never uttered the holy name of Nityananda, he has become merged into so-called material happiness. What can his useless education and family tradition do to help him? Being maddened after false prestige and identification with the body, one is thinking, oh, what is Nityananda? What can he do for me? I don't care. The result is that he is accepting something false to be truth. If you actually want to approach the association of Radha Krishna, you must first achieve the mercy of Lord Nityananda. When he is merciful toward you, then you will be able to approach Radha Krishna. Therefore, you should firmly grasp the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. The lotus feet of Nityananda are not illusion, they are a fact. One who engages in the transcendental loving service of Nityananda is also transcendental. Always try to catch the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. This Narottam Das is very unhappy. Therefore, I am praying to Lord Nityananda to make me happy. My dear Lord, please keep me close to your lotus feet. Ma prashade govinde nama brahmani vaishnave salpapunya vatam rajan vishwasona vijay prasade sarva dukhanam hanirasya upajayate prasana chetaso yashu Gayopa Bhukta Shoganda Hasalankara Karchita Uchista Bojino Dasa Stavamayam Jayemehi Bhagavat Shri Mahaprasadaki Go Premanande. Actually, when Lord Nityananda first met with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they stared into each other's eyes. Lord Nityananda was in a trance. He wouldn't speak. He was only communicating with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through gestures, as if old friends had come together after many, many years. Such an intimate connection between the two. And to demonstrate the deep ecstasy in the heart of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked one of his devotees to chant a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. And he sang this verse, as mentioned in the Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. Barha Natavara Kapur Karyo Karnikaram. All together now. Barhahidam. Got to be quick in the booth tonight. This is a verse about Lord Krishna as he walks into the forest wearing a garland of flowers, his flute in his hand. And he's the object, the attention of everyone in Vrindavan. And when Nityananda Prabhu heard this verse, he fell to the ground in ecstasy and began to roll on the ground just by hearing it. So this is the effect of hearing Krishna Katha once one's heart has become melted. It becomes one's only source of sustenance in life. Hearing Krishna Katha, one understands this is my only asset. What happened? Can't see it from there. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll have to leave everyone in suspense on the verse, and you can feel separation from Lord Nityananda. Vanchakalpadurvascha kripasindhabevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Thank you, everybody. Hare Krishna.
Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, hey, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman.